Choose life, choose a job, choose a career, choose a family, choose a fucking big television, choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players and electrical cylinders. Choose a podcast, choose the Untitled Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Untitled Film Podcast. Once again, I'm your humble host. My name's Mike, and with me as always is Mr. Peake.
Hi guys, hi Mike, how you doing?
What's up, Badman? How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Good stuff. What have you been
Ready to get... well, I did the half marathon at Aintree Racecourse at the weekend just gone, so that was a nice test on the old legs.
Good time?
Good 1:53:30, I think it was, came in at, so... yeah, I kept it under 2 hours, which I'm happy about. I'm just slightly disappointed because I've done it in a better time myself when I've been running on the roads and I've tested myself. So, thinking about it, thinking back to it now, I could probably shaved about 5 minutes off if I really pushed it, maybe 10 minutes maximum. I could have pushed it and got it down to about probably at 140, 142. But yeah, I'm happy because I kept it under 2 hours. It was the first really competitive half marathon. I've just learned a few things, I think, from myself, just from doing that half marathon. He's obviously with me, I'm dead competitive, so when it's like go kind of thing, it's like right, head down, just, you know what I mean, trying to compete and trying to get like up to first. I got up to 16th at one point, and then I just thought, right, okay, I'm just going to get into my stride and I'm not going to keep this up for another 3 laps. So I just got into my stride, and that was it really, just settled into it and finished it. So I was happy, I got the medal, and then next month I've got the Wigan half marathon lined up as well, so that's going to be my second one now.
Good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Done better than what I would do, mate, because if I was in a half marathon I'd still be running now, never mind. But yeah, I was never built for distance running. And if you were to look at me now, you'd be like, well, you were never built for running full stop, but that's another matter altogether.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them though. I think if I could rewind maybe 10 years ago, and then somebody said to me, in 10 years' time you'll be running half marathons and 5Ks and 10Ks and stuff like that, I would have been, no, get lost. You know what I mean? That's not me, that, but just something I've got into and quite enjoy it now. You put my iPod on and head down and just run and just enjoy it. That's it. I mean, people pull their face when I tell them I can quite enjoy it and stuff, and they're like, "You're mad" and stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, but everybody needs a hobby, don't they?" And
yeah, well, my hobby is mainly watching films, so
yeah. I mean, that's one of my hobbies as well. But I think this is just a different kind of hobby because I used to go to the gym a while back, and then when I had my little girl, I didn't have time to go, so I knocked it on the head, and I just thought I need to do something. I just can't be like just chilling at home and stuff. I need to do something. And I just thought, right, okay, I'll pick up, start running and stuff like that. So gradually just increased it and like did an extra mile here, an extra mile there, different days, and then before I know it, I'm capable of doing half marathons now. So
nice.
yeah,
next up full marathon. So
well, one of my mates has been messaging me this week, and there's one at Snowdon. In July, I think it is, and he said, "Oh, I've entered it already," and he messaged me saying, "See if I fancied it." So I was like, "Yeah, I might do." And so I said, "Are you doing the half?" And he said, "No, I'm doing the full." And I was like, "Well, have you trained?" And he said, "I'm just getting training now." So I'm tempted anyway because I could probably do it, but it's one of them. I think it would be hard work, especially in July as well. The sun's beating down. It's a warm day, and you're running up Snowdon, and you know what I mean, you're basically like hill running basically up there. I mean, so I suppose the world coming down won't be too bad because it'd be just downhill, so you can't. That's where your legs can rest. But going up, that's where you have to put all the effort in going up the hill.
Yeah. Well, enough talking about exercise because that's starting to time me out already. Talking about exercise is almost as bad as doing exercise for me. But what we're really here to discuss is your pick from last week, which is the 1985 Michael J. Fox film Teen Wolf, which I know you've been dying to talk about for a while because you've still got hard on for Michael J. Fox. But before we get into that, before we get into talking about Teen Wolf, we'll have to wait a little bit longer. let's just have a bit of a catch up. So, I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since we've done the Total Recall episode, and we didn't really discuss about things that we'd watched, you know, from the
Yeah, true.
previous one. So, have you watched anything recently?
Well, I've watched Teen Wolf as a refresher for this episode, for this
Of course,
podcast.
yeah,
Watched Teen Wolf 2 as well, because just any little tidbits I could, and bits of information I could pick up on and use it on this episode as well. What else have I watched? I've watched another episode of The Exorcist TV series, so I think I'm up to episode 5 now, or 6 or something like that.
yeah.
What else have I watched? I've watched WrestleMania 6. That's because I guested on Get to the Chopper earlier this week. I think it was Tuesday, so I watched all WrestleMania.
Nice.
I thought refreshing on that one.
Yeah.
What else have I watched? My little girl's having me watching Harry Potter again, so Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets for like the 50th time.
Yeah.
I've just she's had me watching Monsters Inc. as well, the first one.
Right.
I think that's it really. I think that's about it really.
No trips to the cinema or anything like that?
No trips to the cinema. We was going to take her watching Mary Poppins because she'd mentioned that as well to us. Oh, Mary Poppins is on. When we told her, oh, can I go? And I was like, right, okay, we might take you next weekend. So
Yeah. It is
yes.
really good, mate. I mean, I'm definitely not target demographic for that, but I really did enjoy it. So
Yeah, I remember you saying, yeah, and I think I even said that one of my friends has mentioned it, said it's really good. And
yeah.
I think about taking it in the week actually, could be quieter in the week and probably a bit cheaper than the weekend.
It's probably a good idea to do it sooner rather than later because it is probably coming towards the end of its life now because there's a couple of big films, coming up. Coming
Yeah,
out soon,
true.
so it's probably one of those that is going to drop off pretty soon. But yeah, definitely go and watch it while it's still at the
Yeah,
cinema.
definitely check it out. But what about yourself, Mike? Have you watched anything?
Well, I went to watch. Well, today I've been to watch that Alita Battle Angel.
Oh yeah, is it any good?
Well, I enjoyed it. I know it's getting mixed reviews and it's tracking to be a bit of a bomb because it was quite an expensive film to make by all accounts, like $200 million, and it's looking like it's only going to make about 25 million on its opening weekend in America. But I had a good time with it. I did have a good time with it. I know James Cameron wanted to make this like literally as far back as 2003, something like that. I remember reading at the time that his next project was going to be Battle Angel Alita, but obviously they swapped the Battle Angel and Alita around. And
Right. Is this based on anything like a manga or anime or anything?
yeah, it's based on a Japanese manga. I've not read the manga, so I'm not familiar with it. Which probably helps with my enjoyment of the film because I'm not going in to the film nitpicking and saying, "Oh, that wasn't in the manga," or they changed that, or stuff like that. But I know it's been a passion project for James Cameron for a while because he wrote like a 180-page script for it,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was going to be like quite a big film. And Robert Rodriguez has ended off taking that 180-page script and trimming it down a little bit. And at points in the story, you can kind of feel where, things have been cut out or kind of like cut down a little bit and just trimmed to make because the film's only about 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it feels like it should have been like a good 3 hours.
Right. So there's a lot left on the cutting room floor, do you think?
I think so, yeah. I mean, like I say, Cameron did a 180-page script for it, so he was obviously envisioning some kind of grand, epic, action flick.
Yeah.
But I think Rodriguez has done a pretty decent job of actually making a film that you can just sit and watch. I don't want to give any spoilers away because it literally only came out in the UK yesterday. But the way that they've done the film, you can quite happily watch the film and it tells a story, which you can sit and watch it as a standalone movie. But
Yeah.
they've also done it in a way where it could easily set up, a franchise or a sequel or
Yeah,
whatever they want to do.
trilogy or something.
Yeah, possibly. And I personally would like to see it because the girl who plays Alita, she's really, really good in the role. She's really likable, and she's like your way in as an audience member. The special effects are, by and large, phenomenal. I know a lot has been made because they've digitally enlarged, like Rosa Salazar's eyes, to make her into the Alita character. So some
Yeah.
people have said, "Oh, that looks creepy" and all this kind of stuff, but I don't think it looks creepy personally. I think it's really well done. There is one or two shots where it looks a little bit, fake here and there, but by and large, I mean, the 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 amount and the quality of like special effects in the film, the world building itself, pretty much is everything is you know computer generated in this. It's a massively high standard. It's all done by Weta. Um, just I was kind of blown away by some of the stuff that they were doing CG wise because it looks like so photoreal. Like you kind of forget that it's a
Yeah.
massive kind of sci-fi action film, and then it gets obviously a little bit more generically sci-fi action film towards the end as it's building up to its conclusion. But I really liked it. I thought Rosa Salazar was really really good as Alita. I thought Christoph Waltz was decent as his character Doc
Hmm.
Ido, and unfortunately I just think it's going to be one of those that costs too much to make, and I don't think it's quite going to connect with an audience because it's obviously based on the manga and people are going to be
Yeah.
looking for certain things, and I don't think they're going to get it out of it. But I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I would like to see a second one. But
I
yeah,
suppose as well, it depends on it how much it makes back, doesn't it, for the sequel or
yeah, I've got a sniff of kind of like Ghost in the Shell off it. I got a bit of a whiff off that, and I didn't mind Ghost in the Shell that much. I thought it was okay, but again, I didn't have any kind of like reverence for the Ghost in the Shell manga, so I didn't go into it with that kind of cynical look and like looking to tear it to pieces and say, you know, aside from the whole whitewashing argument with Scarlett Johansson being in there, I didn't really have a problem with the film, but I know a lot of people did. Um,
would you recommend it though, Mike? Would
I'd
you?
definitely recommend it. The action scenes alone make it worth watching because like most of the action, even though it's like CG,
Hmm.
and Rodriguez uses a very kind of like he uses a virtual camera for kind of like impossible camera moves, flipping and flying around and going through people's legs and up their arms and all around, 360 degrees and all that. It's a very free camera move, but it's
Yeah.
not shaky. So the one thing that struck me about it in all the action scenes is kind of like you've got a clear sense of the geography of the action scene, like what's happening and where, and you understand it because of that. And it's not the shots themselves when action is happening on the film.
Yeah.
He lets the camera just linger for a couple of seconds longer than what most people do at the moment.
Hmm.
Instead of all these quick cuts, he slows his cuts down. He doesn't cut too often, and the camera tends to catch the action as it's happening, and I just thought that was quite refreshing. I'm sick
Yeah.
of all this
Something different.
jumpy. Yeah, I'm just sick of all this kind of like shaky cam bullshit and the quick cuts and like the Michael Bay style editing of
Yeah,
these
that.
action
Yeah, when you
films.
mentioned that straight away, that's what the first thing I thought. Transformers.
Yeah, because even though there's a lot of stuff going on screen, and it doesn't help when you cut in like to a different angle every like 2 seconds because you don't get a clear understanding of what's happening. It becomes a mess on screen.
Yeah.
But I think Rodriguez is pretty clever on how he just kind of lets the camera just settle on the action, and it was really refreshing. I sat there and I thought that's actually I'm glad there's no shaky cam in a big action blockbuster.
Yeah, good. So that's a plus then, isn't it?
Yeah, so I recommend it, but I think it's going to get a lot of kind of like mixed reviews. I would say ignore the reviews, go and watch it, and make your own decision up on this one because I think you'd be surprised. There's a nice little heart in the movie, and it's got a nice little story to tell in the middle of it. The other thing that I watched was How to Train Your Dragon 3
Oh
New
yeah.
World.
Yeah, that's
I,
pretty good, isn't it?
I, do you know what, mate? I think it's one of the most underrated animated franchises of the last 10 years, however long it's been out.
Right.
I really like all of them. I think they're really good. I think they stand shoulder to shoulder with anything that Pixar's put out. And I think that they don't get as much attention as what they should do. Every one of these films is fantastic for me,
Yeah.
and I think the third one is just as good as the first two.
Did they do a TV series as well?
Yeah, there's a couple of kind of like spin-offs on Netflix. I've not watched any of those, I'll be honest, because I kind of have an issue with like TV show spin-offs
Yeah.
from movies, especially when they're animated. It's like Kung Fu Panda did the same kind of thing. They had like TV spin-offs. And,
Yeah, correct. They did, then. Yeah.
yeah, and I kind of
Gets a bit watered down, doesn't it, when it's for TV?
yeah, I don't think the animation's quite up to the level that the movies are, and that kind of spoils it for me. And I don't think like the writing and the stories are quite up to the level of the film, so I tend to stay away from those. But the main three movies in the How to Train the Dragon universe, the actual franchise, I think they're fantastic. Every single one of them's fantastic. And if anyone doesn't like them, then there's something very, very wrong with them.
So that's a strong recommend on the third film.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a really nice ending to the trilogy, because they've actually they've closed the story, which is kind of refreshing in this day and age. It's nice that they've actually ended.
Right. Well,
This,
yeah. Well, we thought that though, didn't we? So, like, for instance, with Toy Story, because Toy Story 3, we thought that was the end, but obviously there's a Toy Story 4 on its way this
yeah,
year.
which I mean, unless Toy Story 4 is really, really good, it's gonna be a massive disappointment, because I didn't think um, Toy Story needed a third film. I thought the way Toy Story 2 ended was kind of perfect. And then I
Yeah.
watched Toy Story 3 and I was kind of like, it's good, but it's not great. And
All right, because I really enjoyed the third film. I thought that like kind of bookended it really, and that was it. It was kind of like he passed the toys on to that little
it,
girl, and that was it. It's moving on. They've got their own stories now, their own adventures with the little girl, but we're not going to see that kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing. It's ended there.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I agree.
I think I
It
think
did
what
bookend it nicely, but I don't think it ended quite as well as it did in the second film. I thought the way that Toy Story 2 ended was kind of perfect, and they should have just left it there. So
yeah.
I didn't dislike Toy Story 3. I actually really liked it, but I just didn't think it was as good as Toy Story 2. Do you know what I
All
mean?
right,
Because
because
that is like pretty much as good as it gets when it comes to kind of like those kind of films.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but I always thought, in my opinion, I always thought Toy Story 2 was the weakest of the three we've seen to
Oh,
date.
okay.
Yeah, but I think it's because Jessie was. I always found her a little bit annoying, that yeehaw and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, but yeah,
I can understand that, but
and I think that was kind of like it put me off a little bit. But it's not to say I don't enjoy it. I just find out of the three that is the weakest of the three for me. But it's not. It's not saying it. I'm not saying it's a bad film or anything. It's just the
yeah,
weakest.
yeah, I know
So
what you mean.
that's the least favorite.
I think the third one's the weakest, and I think the second one's the best. But
Yeah,
it's
but I think as well what they did with Pixar, they were very crafty, because I think what they did, they tested the waters, didn't they, for the for a bit before they announced Toy Story 4, because they released them. Was it the Toy Story? Was it the Halloween or something like that? And
yeah,
there were two, and one in a hotel, and then there was another one with the white figures, the white dinosaurs. I can't remember what they called it, but they released them on Sky the first time around, and then you
I
can get them on
remember. Yeah, I
DVD.
remember
Yeah,
them coming out again. It's one of those things. I never watched them. I'm aware of them, but I never watched them just because of the exact same thing that I've just said about How to Train Your Dragon. I never kind of like had any interest in watching anything other than the main.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
they're worth watching. If you're a Toy Story fan, it's worth watching. They just don't long. They don't last for long. I think they're only on for like about 10 minutes within each
yeah,
episode. So you got 20 minutes there, something to watch. And I think I think they tested the water Pixar to see what feedback they were going to get. You know what I
it's
mean?
one of those things, mate. I mean, Toy Story now is like it became part of like pop culture. It became a pop culture phenomenon, and it is part of like people's childhoods now, in the way that the original Disney films are, like The Jungle Book and Lion King, all
Oh
of those
yeah,
kind of things. Yeah,
yeah,
so they could do Toy Story 10, and people will still pay to go and watch it.
exactly. Yeah,
But
I just hope they don't ruin it.
yeah, I don't think that there needed to be anything beyond Toy Story 2. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I know a lot of people like Toy Story 3. I'm included. Like I say, I just I don't know. There was just something that felt a little bit wrong with Toy Story 3 for me.
Yeah,
Maybe it was like the really kind of like downer ending. You know, when it looked like they were all going to die, I was kind of like, this is a little bit too dark for Toy Story.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, when I watched it in the cinema, I think, how are they going to get out of this? I just could not see it. I thought, we're going to see them die on screen here.
Because it actually felt like they were going to fucking go through with it, didn't it?
That was it, yeah, holding hands there.
I thought, hang on a minute, because I remember very clearly when I went and watched it at the cinema that a kid started absolutely screaming at that, and I was like, this is too dark.
Yeah.
I know what they want. I know the reason why they want to do it, because I'm an adult and obviously it makes sense to me, but it obviously doesn't make sense to this 5-year-old kid who is absolutely bawling because they've been traumatized thinking that Woody and Buzz and all them are going to burn.
Yeah, well,
it's not a case of like the toys are going to die, because if it was done any other way, I think the kids would kind of like respond to it and understand it, but the fact that they were going to burn them, that's fucking dark. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I mean, I thought at the time I was thinking it's going to be like something like a flashback to 1986 when Optimus Prime died in the Transformers movie. All kids got me crying there in the cinema kind of thing. I thought, we're going to get that here now, but obviously they didn't kill him off, did the alien saber and the claw. But yeah, I just hope, sticking with Toy Story 4, I just hope that they do us proud and it's not a watered down sequel compared to the first 3 films, if you know what I mean. I mean, they've got the cast back, haven't they? And everybody's back on board, and they've always said, I think that I can't remember who is behind.
Even Keanu Reeves is in this one.
All right, even the guy though, the main guy behind the Toy Story and Pixar and stuff, he said he wouldn't come back. They wouldn't do a Toy Story 4 if the story wasn't good enough. So
yeah, I mean, they've always said that at Pixar, like John Lasseter,
that's it, John Lasseter, yeah.
They've always said that they wouldn't do a story do a sequel unless the story was good enough. But they did Monsters University, and it's like, where was your fucking quality standards there?
Yeah, I mean,
they dropped the ball big time on Monsters University.
Cars 2 as well, wasn't there? That one.
Yeah, well, Cars is aimed squarely at like young boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people give Cars a hard time because they're like, oh, it's not up to the quality of Toy Story. It's not up to the quality of Monsters Inc., the first Monsters Inc., and all this kind of shit. And it's kind of like, yeah, but sometimes you've just got to make a fun movie. It doesn't have to be this high watermark for, cinematic art.
Yeah.
In the guise of a cartoon.
I mean,
it's just an enjoyable film for kids who like, getting the little Hot Wheels or whatever they're called, and boom, boom, crashing the cars into each other.
Yeah, exactly. And then they did that spin-off, that Planes, was it? I've never seen it.
I haven't seen that one. No.
I've not seen that one, but yeah, it's just a spin-off, and the Planes look pretty much similar to the cars, don't they? But yeah,
with the eyes as the windscreen.
Yeah, the eyes and the mouth and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I mean, I didn't mind I didn't mind the first Cars because it had Paul Newman in it, and I think any movie that's got Paul Newman in it, you can't really go wrong. Was it his last film? It might have been his last film as well.
But yeah, I think it was, wasn't it? I think
it was his last. Yeah.
Or second to last, maybe.
Well, I know. I'm pretty sure The Road to Perdition was his last, on.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's an underrated film as well.
Yeah, that was at the cinema when we worked there.
It was, and I didn't like it the first time. I kind of misunderstood it the first time that came out, and then I went back and revisited it when I got the Blu-ray, and I found a really, really good film in there. So
yeah, that was like it's like me with Event Horizon. The first time I watched it on VHS, I just didn't enjoy it, and then I went back and rewatched it. I think it was when I bought it on VHS. Then rented it the first time, then went back and bought it, and I loved it the second time round because I think I knew. I think it was something. It was one film that I think I thought like, oh, it's going to be something different than what it was when I actually saw it. I thought it was going to be like a proper like alien film, like creatures in it and stuff like that. And it's totally completely different to that. So I think I'm on the same lines with you there regarding that Road to Perdition.
How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World is a massive recommendation, and Alita: Battle Angel, I also highly recommend that as well. So go and check them out. They're definitely worth your time.
Yeah. There's just one more, Mike, as well. I forgot to mention what I have watched. It was the other week as well when we went and watched Superman at Manchester Classic Films, what Fergus put on there. We had a chat, didn't we, about Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. And I said I don't think I've ever seen it, so I checked my local CX shop anyway, and they had it in there for like £2 or something like that. With it was 3 disc special edition. So I thought, I'll go on, I'll pick it up for £2. So I started watching that the other week as well, thinking I'd never seen it before. But when I got into it, I thought I have actually seen the cut before. But I think if I had to compare the Richard Donner cut or the original theatrical release, I think I prefer the original release because it didn't really add much to it. I don't think the Richard Donner cut is just different scenes, but does it really add anything to the story? Does it? I think Lois Lane's a bit more wiser to Clark, isn't she, and Superman. You know, like
I kind of disagree with you there. I think the main thing that it adds back in is Marlon Brando, because in the in the theatrical version with Richard Lester, who took over from Richard Donner from directing, because the Salkinds didn't want him back after clashing heads on the production. Because Superman 1 and Superman 2 were shot together back to back.
Yeah.
And they kind of halted production halfway through to focus on finishing off Superman 1 because of budget overruns and all this kind of stuff, because the special effects at the time were untested and turned out to be expensive and all this kind of shit. So this is mainly for people who don't know. So the director Richard Donner, who directed like Lethal Weapon, The Goonies, you know, those kind of films. The Omen, he directed The Omen before Superman. He's quite headstrong. He's quite a character, and he butted heads with the Salkinds, who were the producers and obviously the money men behind the Superman movie. So he was replaced after Superman 1 was released and was a massive success.
Yeah.
They decided to go back and start production or restart production on Superman 2, but they decided to do it without Richard Donner because they fucking hated each other. So Richard Lester was brought in to complete Superman 2, because Richard Lester was actually go-between while Donner was shooting Superman. It got to the point where he wouldn't speak to Pierre Spengler, who was one of the producers with the Salkinds. So Richard Lester was brought in as kind of like a mediator. So Richard Donner would be like, he would say something to Richard Lester. Richard Lester would carry the message to, you know, the Salkinds and Spengler. And that was their relationship towards the end of it. They liked him and said, you might as well finish the film. So he reshot, I think, he had to reshoot something like 75% of the film in order to be listed as a director. And one of the things that I missed, I didn't know until the time when I watched the Donner cut, which was released after Superman Returns came out, was the fact that Marlon Brando had been completely removed out of Superman 2 because they would have had to pay him again, essentially, and he was paid like a ridiculous amount of money for
the first film,
For the first film, considering he's only in it for like, you know, the first 17 minutes, I think he was paid, you know, a good few million. At that time, it was like the highest, you know, amount of money paid per minutes in a film. And they just didn't want to pay him again, so they decided to replace those scenes, reshoot those scenes without Marlon Brando, and put what's her name?
His mum.
Lara. Lara. And that kind of ruined one of the main themes of Superman, which was, you know, Marlon Brando has that line where the father becomes the son, and the son becomes the father, and the father becomes the son.
Yeah.
So essentially like the circle of life kind of thing. And when they did the Donner cut and they put the scenes with, you know, Clark giving up his powers to become a human, become mortal, so he could actually live with Lois and, you know, love her as a human kind of thing and be in a relationship with her. And then he has to go back groveling to him. It's kind of like, you know, thematically it works a lot better with having the father figure there who forbade him to do it in the first place, and then actually relinquishing the powers and then going back and begging his father to get the powers back kind of thing because he realizes he's made a mistake. And that just didn't work with putting Lara in the place, because it's kind of like, well, she died on Krypton. She didn't really have a presence beyond, you know, the planet exploding at the end of it. so it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know
Do you
what
know
you
what I
mean.
mean? So I
Yeah,
think between the two cuts, the theatrical cut and the Donna cut, I think if there was enough interest or something kicked in, maybe it'll come up on one of the anniversaries of the film. There is kind of like an ideal cut in there. I think they could probably take parts of both films
yeah, mix
um,
it
and,
together.
and
Yeah,
and just get kind of like the same way that Ridley Scott's got his final cut for Blade Runner now. Do you know?
yeah,
Because there's been like 7 different versions of Blade Runner throughout the years, but now on Blu-ray you can go out and get Ridley Scott's final cut, which is the one that he is happy with and signed off. And I think at some point, fans probably there's probably already a fan edit out for the definitive cut of Superman 2, but I think it would be nice for Warner Brothers to officially go back in, spend a little bit of money, and take the best of both worlds and smash them together and get the definitive cut of
yeah,
Superman
true.
2 out there
Yeah,
for the fans. And I think that movie definitely deserves it.
yeah, spot on. Well said. It's just, yeah, I think as well because I've always grown up watching the theatrical release, so I miss the scenes with Lois and quite, when they go to the honeymoon lodge and
Yeah,
he
because in
falls
the
on
Donna
falls on.
cut, they actually the film was damaged so badly from when Donna shot it that they actually had to use the audition, didn't they?
Yeah,
So his costume's a little bit wonky and his glasses are a little bit kind of like just cheap, you know.
yeah, I think that.
It's off because it was just like they recorded like the audition scene and then they put that in as like the finished so it's clearly not a finished scene.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, that if they took it back Warner's and chopped that out, the audition scene, and then added the part with the honeymoon
Yeah,
that when he falls onto the fire, add that back in there, and then tweak a few little bits, put Marlon Brando back in, and the other little sections as well.
yeah,
And I think it'd be a much better film.
100%.
Yeah, as I said, for £2, 3-disc special edition, you can't go wrong for £2.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, if you're a fan, you probably you find something to like in
Yeah.
both cuts of the
Do you,
film. But
do you know when it got to, as far when they got down to Superman Returns? You know that Brandon
Brandon, I think it's Ralph.
Routh, yeah. When they
Yeah.
got down to that, they used Marlon Brando footage, old footage, archive footage. Was that from this film, or was that from the first film?
It was taken well. Like I say, they were shot back to back, so it was kind of like
Bit of both, maybe. Yeah,
yeah. It was just unused footage. But I mean, Superman Returns was obviously a direct sequel to the Donner films, in a way that it ignored Superman 3 and Superman 4,
yeah,
and they I enjoyed it at the time, but then as I've watched it, I'm kind of like I can see where they made some decisions where it's kind of like you stuck a little bit too. They were trying to be a little bit too nostalgic.
yeah. And as well, you didn't really see Clark in it, did you? As such, if I remember right, didn't he? Was
mm,
he's like nerdy self?
yeah, not so much. I mean, it's one of those because I remember Bryan Singer said that if when he was going to do Superman Returns 2 or whatever it was going to be called after the fact, because there was talk of a sequel after Superman Returns. He said the sequel was going to go all Wrath of Khan because one of the criticisms was there's not much action in the film. Superman doesn't do anything. He saves the plane from dropping out of the sky and then he lifts a rock up into space kind of thing.
Yeah,
And he said, "Oh, the sequel's going to go all Wrath of Khan," alluding to the fact that it was going to have a lot more action and all that kind of stuff in there. And we never got it.
no,
Which it's one of those. I'm kind of sad in a way, but I'm kind of not because Man of Steel is actually one of my personal favourite films. I really connected with Man of Steel for some reason. I know a lot of people didn't, and are not. It's fashionable now to shit on the DCEU, but Man of Steel came out before there was a DCEU. It was setting things up
yeah.
in an indirect way, and despite that, I still think it's a fantastic film. It's a great standalone film, and like I say, I connect with Man of Steel for some reason. I'm a massive Superman fan anyway, but that film just speaks to me. For some reason.
Who's your favourite Superman? Would you say?
I do like Henry Cavill because his Superman is Superman. He throws punches. He's the all-powerful kind of Superman. Do you know what I mean?
Like
He
the
can
god.
move world. Yeah, absolutely. And he's more complex than the Christopher Reeve one, but you can't not say Christopher Reeve because he
Yeah.
just kind of like when you think of Superman, that's who you think of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. The minute you think of Superman, you just picture Christopher Reeve stood there, don't you, with his
Yeah, I
little
mean,
yeah,
if Christopher Reeve was Superman in
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, then you're not going to go wrong. But you look at the Superman the movie, and the 70s were a much different time. So it's kind of like it was a more innocent time. Comic books were obviously a little bit younger than what they are today, so they're not dealing with the complex kind of emotions and themes of what comic books are dealing with today.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
so it's kind of it's an apples to oranges comparison in a way, and if you take the nostalgia aside, I still really kind of like what
Henry
Man of
Cavill.
Steel did with the Superman, because his character was a lot more complex. He was someone dealing with it in more of a real world environment. What would it be like to find out that you're a god amongst men, and how would you react?
Yeah, see, we never really got into that, did we, with the Christopher Reeve films?
They didn't know, and more importantly, how would the world react to finding out that there is a god walking amongst them, kind of thing. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And in this highly militarized world that we live in nowadays, um, it that would be the reaction. It would be a full on kind of assault. It would be, we don't understand this thing. It's a threat. We've got to destroy it.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, let's get off that because
Yeah.
we've been rambling for far too long. We
Just
haven't
one
even
more thing as
touched
well.
on this.
Yeah, I know we've maybe got into Team Wolf, yeah. But just one more thing as well. Do you know the start of Man of Steel when he's running around and he's taking, is he running around Topos, I think it is, when he's on Earth.
Yeah, that's after he's been on the oil rig and he's saved the. See, that was another thing that people shit on. They say that Superman doesn't save anyone in Man of Steel. Well, he fucking does, because like he saves that all of those oil rig
Yeah,
workers when the oil rig's going up. That's the very first thing that you see him doing. You know
yeah,
what I
true.
mean? He jumps off the. He jumps. He's just trying to get away and find his place in the world, and he's on that boat. And then he hears the radio call saying that there's an oil rig going up in flames. And what does he do? He goes straight towards the oil rig, and he saves all those people.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
yeah, but my point is that scene when he's running around there and he's got his beard. Do you not
yeah,
think he could pass for Wolverine? He looks like Wolverine in them scenes there.
I see what you're saying, but I'd see him as Superman. I don't.
Yeah, I think
Maybe if that was him as Logan, if he was like Wolverine before he shot the Superman film,
yeah,
then yeah, I could, because he's got the physicality. He's not a massively tall guy. He's kind of like, shorter than most, and he's obviously got the build and stuff. Because Wolverine's quite a short, squat fella.
yeah.
He's not like 6 foot tall like Hugh Jackman
I,
Wolverine.
I just remember the first time I watched it at the cinema and that scene came on. I just thinking like he could easily pass for Wolverine there.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are saying that they want to see Tom Hardy as Wolverine, but I don't think Tom Hardy would want to go down that route, especially now that he's Venom. I think he's having,
He's like, yeah, well, he's signed off the sequel on it, so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
good in it. So yeah, so the sequel does.
But,
does
I did read the other day that Marvel are looking for a younger Wolverine to bring into the MCU, so we'll see what happens there.
Right, so Hugh Jackman's then it's not happening with him then because Ryan Reynolds is still trying to get him.
Yeah, I think if Hugh Jackman's going to show up as Wolverine again, it's going to be in one of the Deadpool films as opposed to being in the MCU. I think the time's passed for that now, and I don't think I don't think Kevin Feige's interested in doing that.
Yeah, tie-in, with the X-Men film.
Yeah, but I think if there's a place for the Hugh Jackman Wolverine, I think it's going to be in the Deadpool movies.
Do you think he'll do it?
Yeah.
You think he'll do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a cameo or something, or
they are. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're palling around on Instagram a lot, mate. So I think if you've got your tinfoil hats on. The conspiracy theorists out there will be like, yeah, there's something going on between
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, and even if it is just a cameo, just a walk on or whatever it is, just as fan service alone, I think he's gonna, put the claws on one more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
See, watch his
And
face.
fingers crossed, I think it would be great.
Yeah.
But if anyone's got any suggestions on who they would like to see as Wolverine, then let us know on Instagram or drop us an email. Right,
Right, let's get on to it.
let's get on to it because we've been rambling now for
Yeah.
about 40 minutes and we've not even talked about
That's
it.
not bad, is it, Mike?
Not at all, no. I'm not trying to avoid talking about this film, I promise. Okay, so Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
This was obviously your pick, and I was dubious as to whether or not I would enjoy watching this film.
Well, how long has it been since you actually watched it, would you say?
I cannot remember watching this in my adult life.
All right.
I do remember the VHS coming into the house when I was a kid, and that was while I was still up in Sunderland. And I honestly can't remember ever watching it after that. I may have caught it on TV if it was, on TV.
Channel 5 or something, ITV or something like that, yeah.
Definitely not in the Channel 5 days. Maybe if it was on ITV. But Channel 5, I was down here. I'm pretty sure I've not seen it since I came down here. Because 85, I would have been 4 when this came out. At the cinema. It was definitely a VHS. So I'm going to say I saw this in like 86, 87, maybe 88, something like that. I remember Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2, VHSs both coming into the house at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was not close to its original release. I'm guessing it was, a few years down the line. Long enough for Teen Wolf 2 to actually...
Yeah, because I think Teen Wolf 2 was 87. This was 85, wasn't it? Oh, 88, Teen Wolf 2.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say that I saw it in about 88 then, because I was definitely still up in the northeast, and I moved down here in like 1990, 91.
Yeah, so you was about 7 or 8 year old, weren't you then?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, it's a weird one for me because I think I mentioned it on the first episode that I think I was the same age as you, maybe 3, maybe 4. At the time when it got released in 1985, and I always remember I was either walking or I was in a car or I was getting pushed in the pram or something like that, going past the old Lee Cinema, and the poster case out there had Teen Wolf poster inside, and I remember seeing it as a kid and remember just thinking, whoa, what's that? And you know what I mean, just because it was just an iconic picture of him. We've mentioned it in the past as well, with the moon in the background, he's ripping his shirt open, and
he's ripping his shirt open in a very Superman way, isn't he?
Yeah, and
think about it.
Yeah, that's it. To be honest, I've never thought about it like that. He's got Teen Wolf on his chest there, and he's half turning in because he's got hairy hands, but he's still like Michael J. Fox's face. And I remember just that sticking in my head, and then it's always just stuck with me since then. And I remember we must have rented it on VHS from the video shop. And then I remember buying it on VHS at a later date when I was probably about... I must have been high school or something like that. I remember paying about $1 for it. And then I've got it on DVD now with Teen Wolf 2 as a double set. And then I've got Teen Wolf on Blu-ray as well. And for the past week, I watched it on Blu-ray Teen Wolf. I didn't bother with the DVD. I just watched the Blu-ray copy because I've had it for about 2 years now, and it's just been sat on the shelf. And I thought, right, okay, it's time to dig it out and give it a watch and see what it's like in HD, picture-wise and quality and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the picture-wise, it doesn't look too bad, I don't think. Considering like the origin of the film, because I think it only cost like $1 million to make, and I think it was shot in like 3 weeks. I know it was pretty rushed production.
Yeah, is it 21 days or something? I've got that script.
Yeah. So it was shot in 3 weeks because at the time Michael J. Fox was on that Family Ties, and one of his castmates was pregnant, so there was like a 6 month. Was it a 6 month break in filming?
Yeah, so we came and started filming this, didn't he?
So we filmed this, and wasn't Back to the Future filmed at the same time or around the same time?
Well, from what I've read, that he was when he was filming Teen Wolf. Apparently, he was. I think he got wind about Back to the Future and he started thinking, I want to do that film. I don't want to do this one. So he went and got the
I
role.
think Back to the Future was already shooting with Eric Stoltz because at the same time that this was shooting, they were scouting the.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were scouting locations because the house that
Oh, Lorraine Bain. Yeah.
Lorraine lives in, isn't that Scott's house or his father's
It's
house?
like, I think it's on the same street. I don't know if it's the same house. I think they're on the
Something
same
like that. Yeah, yeah.
same
So
street.
so I think that's how we found out about the Back to the Future, like you were just saying there,
Yeah.
because they came around scouting the houses on location, and he obviously asked the question, "Oh, what's this for?" And he found out it was for Back to the Future. But Eric Stoltz was at that time cast as Martin McFly, and yeah,
Actually filmed a few scenes didn't it, with Stoltz as Marty.
yeah, yeah.
The car park scene. I've seen that. When he the first time you see the DeLorean, I've
Yeah.
seen it. It's a couple of stills. I think it's still
I
pictures
think
of him.
the shot where he actually jumps back into the DeLorean as the Albanian, is it the Albanians or whatever they are?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as they're shooting towards Doc, I think the shot where you
Oh,
see
Libyans. The
McFly die.
Libyans.
Libyans, there you
That's it.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't mean to cause offence to any Albanians out there. Yeah, the shot where he actually dives into the DeLorean for cover from the bullets. That's
Stoltz.
that's Stoltz. Yeah, so he's
Right.
actually in the finished film.
Oh,
Um,
didn't even know that myself. So you found something new out of it. Yeah.
yeah.
With Teen Wolf as well, though, it was shot before Back to the Future, but it was released after Back to the Future.
Yes, and I think that's the only reason why Teen Wolf made a shitload of money
Just
because of
said,
the popularity of Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future at the
yeah, so
time. Because
they marketed it right, didn't they? That was the thing.
yeah, Back to the Future was number one at the box office, and Teen Wolf was number two at the box office.
Yeah, I
So
mean, what was the budget? Was it a million? Just over a million, but it brought back 33 million, I think it was Teen Wolf. So
yeah, I think
I
well, what
wonder.
I'm looking at here and I'm on Wikipedia, which is obviously never incorrect, but it says the budget was 1.2 million and the box office was 80 million. So
Oh, 80 million.
that is one hell of a return.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much that money they made on Teen Wolf did they make just from Back to the Future? Just go.
Probably a lot, mate. I mean, it made 33 million in America. The worldwide gross for the film was 80 million. So yeah.
I mean, what was the tagline as well on the Teen Wolf poster? Was it something like Michael J. Fox's Back from the Future in a comedy or something like
Back from the Future in a new comedy or something.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
something along those lines. I was digging up some like bits of trivia and stuff like that, and they really kind of went to town with like piggybacking on the success of Back to the Future because I think it was in Brazil when they redubbed the film in Brazil. I think they changed the name of Michael J. Fox's character from Scott to Marty.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it was. Oh, I can't remember. There was in one of the international markets as well. They actually changed the title of the film from Teen Wolf to The Boy from the Future. I think that might have been Brazil.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they really, really piggybacked on it. Really
Yeah. So you
piggybacked
say
on
that
it.
80 million, the majority of it might have come from the success of Back to the Future.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously he was a big name from the TV show as well when he was on Family Ties. So he was literally at the height of his popularity when he was doing, this Back to the Future. He was just kind of like a money printing machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
but they definitely exploited, that success from Back to the Future and rode it hard. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to change the character's name from Scott to Marty unless, you know,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And Teen Wolf changing the title from Teen Wolf to The Boy from the Future. It's like what?
Yeah. So if anything, they're trying to build it as like the sequel or a tie into the Back to the Future films, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. Clever. I mean,
Clever. You got the money.
shameless, but clever.
Yeah. Well, you got the money, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Back to the Future made something like $400 million. So you know. For that time, back in like the 80s, $400 million, that was a massive amount of
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
Yeah, so the money was to be made. The one thing that did shock me as I went back and like started reading up on this,
yeah.
and let's just say I didn't hate the movie. I just didn't enjoy it. I
Mm,
found it really boring. I found it really, really boring.
mm.
Um,
I think as well, a lot of it with me is, I think it's very nostalgia with me because I've always enjoyed it as a kid. So when I look back on it, I've still got them nostalgic glasses on, kind of thing. You know, I still enjoy
yeah,
it back then. I think, well, everybody's going to have a film like that, and that's
yeah,
that's it.
100%. Like I said before, I connect with Man of Steel, and you know, it's just I I can't explain it. I connect with that film on a personal level, on an emotional level, and I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And you know they probably won't understand. You know when I say I love that film, some people will be like, "Really? It's a piece of shit." He snaps Zod's neck at the end, and all this, and it's like, yeah, I get all of that. I get all of that. It's not a perfect film at all, but for me, it's a personal film and it works for me, and I just
Well,
can't explain. That's why
that,
I'm trying not to shit on this film because I know it means something to you.
yeah, I
Um,
think it's one of them. Like I said, when I said earlier on, when I was a kid and saw it from to the cinema, that poster. Every time I see and hear Teen Wolf, it always just takes me back to that second when I saw the poster when I was
yeah,
a
yeah,
kid. So I've got that, you know what I mean, to go off still to this date. And it's just something that I get a kick out of it. And yeah, it is cheesy, but it's cheesy fun, I think, and it's an easy
it's very
watch.
cheesy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it is very cheesy at times. But I just found it really boring, and I was surprised to find out that it's actually written by Jeff Loeb. Now, do you know who that Jeff Loeb is?
No, go on, then lie to me.
Right. Jeff Loeb is actually quite well known nowadays for being involved in comic books. He's a comic book writer.
Right.
He's written like Spider Man, Batman, Superman, Hulk,
Yeah.
Captain America, Daredevil, loads, pretty much
So
loads.
just why? Because he was a comic book writer. You know, about halfway through the film, Scott he's speaking to his dad, and his dad turns around and gives him the old Spider-Man line about with
He
great
does. I
powers.
was going to get to that. You stole my thunder on that, you
Yeah.
arsehole. Yeah, I was going to get to that, but yeah, that was probably a nod. I don't know the timelines because I don't know Jeff Loeb's
Career.
career in and out, but he did write for Spider Man, so I'm pretty sure he
He's
could have
thrown
been
that in
writing for
there.
Spider Man
Yeah.
at that time. Yeah, but he's written some of like my favorite comic books and comic books that I own to this day, and I get a kick out of reading on a regular basis. And
Were you surprised when you found out that he was
I
connected?
was really surprised, yeah,
Yeah.
because it was kind of like, hang on, I recognise that name. And when I went and looked into it, I was like, because he's listed in the credits as Joseph Loeb the Third, and I was like,
Oh,
I recognise that name for some reason. And when I
yeah.
looked him up, it's Jeff. He's known as Jeff Loeb, and he's written like one of my favourite Batman films is The Long Halloween,
Yeah.
and he wrote The Long Halloween, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, how can someone who's written some of my favourite comic book films, comic book stories, write a really fucking boring film that I just couldn't get into?
Maybe he's had to start somewhere, hasn't he?
Yeah,
As such.
possibly. I mean, it's very kind of comic booky in a way.
Cause,
I
yeah,
mean,
because he has got superpowers in a way, hasn't he?
yeah, because he has, and it's very similar to the Spider-Man story if you think about it, because like it's obviously an allegory for what happens to a teenage boy at a certain time of his life. Where her hair starts growing and he gets all of these powers and all this. It's
Yeah.
very similar story to Spider-Man in a way
Yeah, definitely.
if you think about it, even down to the great power and great responsibility.
Yeah, I don't think it's an exact same one from Spider-Man, though, is it? But
It's not, but
it,
he's kind of like
it's
he's a bit of a nerd. He's a little bit outcast. He's ignored at school. He's not very popular, similar to
he doesn't want to
Peter
be
Parker.
average, does he? That's his. He just doesn't want to be an average guy. He wants to be a little bit more. He wants to have the
Yeah,
bomb girl on his arm and be the best at like basketball and wants to be like number one, doesn't he? The
yeah,
cool kid at school, and he's sick of being average, and that's all changes, isn't it, when he discovers he's a werewolf basically.
werewolf. Yeah, I mean, in a way, Peter Parker wanted that kind of adulation and that acceptance when After he's bitten by the spider and he gains his powers,
Yeah.
he goes into the wrestling scene, if you remember, and earns a little bit of money that way.
Yeah,
You
fights
know,
Randy
and
Savage, yeah.
yeah, and obviously it doesn't work out very well for him that way. But yeah, I mean there are parallels there, and I'm sure they're not intentional, but it's kind of
Yeah, because it's like you sticking with the superpowers though, because he's ended up becoming like a, from what I say, just a below average basketball player to being say like a world class basketball player, outplaying everybody, and he's good on the court and good at dunks and all that stuff. But there's also a few scenes in there where he's walking through the to his classroom and he ends up bumping into the guy and doing like a bit of breakdancing on the floor, spinning around.
yeah.
So he's good at basketball, but he's good at dancing now as well.
Yeah, he's just good at everything now, and he's Mr. Popular, isn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, there's the scene where he's bowling, and he's hitting strikes and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, and he can also do
it's
that the surfing on top of the van as well. That Styles can his mate.
yeah. I did make a note. One of the first notes that I made when I was writing, watching the film and making notes was "fuck Styles." How annoying is Styles?
Yeah, he's a bit of a
If he
knob.
was, if he was my best mate, I would. Well, I'd rather not have him as a best mate because he's
Yeah,
an absolute dickhead.
trying to make a bit of quick money off his mate, and he basically, you know, what I
Yeah,
mean,
he's
find
an
out it's Wolf, and then he's like,
absolute
right, we'll push it, we'll
arsehole.
advertise it, we'll market it, we'll get T-shirts printed up and all that stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah, and but that part as well, though, when he wants that keg of beer, when he sends him in, he's like, you just go in there and you put this in your coat pocket. He's got a fake gun, and he basically wants him to go in
exactly. I
and
was just kind of like,
rob the off license.
yeah. And what if the shopkeeper had a gun underneath there? He's just sent his mate in there to get fucking blown away.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, you're an absolute knob. And the only thing I could think of when he was jumping up on that van is like, I hope you get hit by an electrical wire. You're an absolute
Yeah,
sisser.
yeah.
So,
He's not the mate you want.
I would have said, yeah, go surfing on the van, and I would have, obviously been driving along, and I would have, for no reason whatsoever, emergency stop just to see him fly off that fucking roof.
Yeah, I think Scott would be better off chewing up with Lewis, wouldn't he? You know, Styles'
Yeah.
mate. He seems to get his head screwed on, and he can't
Well,
be
he
decent.
just seems to like sit in the car and not really say anything.
Yeah, it doesn't seem OTT do with Styles. Just does not fit them as a threesome, a group of three mates. He does not fit in with them.
No, he's a tosser,
Yeah,
absolutely, and he's a druggie as well.
small. Yeah, weed.
Yeah, smoking weed. I mean, obviously, weed's legal in some places now, and blah blah blah. But back then, it was kind of like taboo. It was kind of like, oh, weed is dope, and drugs are bad, and this is your brain on drugs, blah 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 blah. But they cut that part out, didn't they? For the UK release, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, I've never seen that part before. Anyway.
Yeah, I was kind of like, oh really? Because there was parts of this film that when I was rewatching it, I was like, what was? So I went and checked the certificate. I was like, what's the certificate on this?
PG, wasn't it? Was it
And
PG?
it was a PG,
Yeah.
and like it's just been on in the background now where he goes into like the dressing room of the blonde girl.
Oh, I've just had that scene on there. I'm at the I'm the next scene in the bowling alley.
Yeah, and like she takes her top off and she sticks her tits in his face, and then they lie down together. And to me, that insinuates that they bumped uglies right there.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
definitely.
like, this is a kids' film, really? And then we've got the bit with the drugs afterwards, and then you've got the party where Styles is covering them girls in whipped cream, and they're kind of like doing stuff, and I was kind of like,
Yeah, it's funny back in 1985 what would actually be classed as a PG film.
It is, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
the bit where Scott goes into the closet with Booth, and he gets a
Oh, yeah, frisky, and he claws it, and he
he
scratches
gets
his back, doesn't
very frisky in a very kind of Harvey Weinstein way, and she kind of like slaps him. She's like,
he?
no, 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 and then next thing you know, she's walking out, and her back's all bloody, and she's got claw marks down the back of her back.
Yeah. Whenever you watch that scene as well, though, the other day, and she walked out and she walked up and you see like a shirt's been scratched. Oh, it just reminded me of Hulk Hogan, the rips, and he's bashed at the back. It was very similar.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, this is I kind of get what it's trying to say, but it's saying it in a really, really kind of bad way. It just, looking back on it now, I'm sure the snowflakes out there would have a field day with this
Yeah.
movie nowadays. But
What about Pamela, though? The blonde girl.
she's a whore.
She's big time.
She's just a whore.
Just
I mean,
he's better off just sticking with Booth, and
Pretty much.
She's got her head screwed on. She's basically just.
Yeah, but it's a typical thing. It's kind of like you always want what you can't have, and you don't see what's right in front of you the whole time, and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that whole kind of triangle. The love interest triangle is kind of like a little bit confused for me in this.
Yeah, and I think
I never know. When I watched it, I was kind of like, I don't know what to make of this.
yeah, it's a strange one, but it's like Booth knows that Scott fancies Pamela.
Yeah.
He go out of his way for. He's always talking about her, and you know what I mean. And he wants to go in the play and do things and stuff like that. He's always got his eye on her when they're playing basketball, and she knows that. But she still hangs around. You know what I mean? She doesn't take the hint. I mean, she kisses him, doesn't she, in the closet there, and she gives him a slap. But I think there's a few times in the film where I think Scott needs a good slap anyway for just things he said to Booth and how his acts and stuff like.
Yeah. He is a bit of an arsehole at times as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
like,
especially with Booth.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like I say, when I watched that scene where he goes into the dressing room with the blonde, I'm kind of like, because when they cut away with it's one of those things like in Neighbours or Home and Away and all that kind of stuff, or in soap operas when two people lie down and are kind of like getting naked and then lie down, and then the camera cuts away to a different scene. That is kind of like shorthand in those terms for those people are fucking now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I saw that scene, I was kind of like, they are definitely just fucking. They're not making out. She's not just got a naked, put her tits in his face, and just decided to not do anything.
Or did she give him a bead? Yeah.
Either way, Scott is an absolute hound dog. No pun intended. I think, he's a bit of an asshole for how he treats Booth. I think,
yeah, Booth's a babe. I think definitely. He's definitely the babe. When I was a kid growing up, I used to always fancy Pamela. I'm a bit like as a young kid who was always fancy her, blonde and stuff like that, and she's attractive. But when I've got a lot older now and thinking, she's just a whore, isn't she? And Booth is the one you want, definitely.
Oh well. Yeah. Just I got really confused about the whole kind of, what was supposed to be going on there. But, yeah.
Do you want to? Should we go into the cast?
Fire away.
Yeah. So, what I forgot here? James Hampton. He played Harold Howard, Scott's dad. His dad, yeah. And there was a cartoon released a year after the film, and it's ran for 2 seasons. And James Hampton was only a returning cast member from Teen Wolf the movie. He obviously voiced his dad again in the cartoon.
Yeah, well, I read a few things about Michael J. Fox really not liking Teen Wolf. That's why he didn't want to have anything to do with.
Probably he disliked it, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with him. I can understand it. But from his point of view, he probably thought it was going to be a nothing film, and he was probably surprised at the kind of success that came along with it that we talked about earlier. It's weird because out of all these films that you kind of see in the 80s, you wouldn't expect this one to have kind of took off in the way that it did, because it had that cartoon show that you've just mentioned there, and
I don't think that was very good, though, the cartoon show. I mean, I did watch a few episodes back in the day, but I can't remember what went on or anything like that. Yeah. I watched one on YouTube. I watched the first episode on YouTube the other day, and it doesn't stick to the movie at all. Styles looks different. He looks more like Styles from Teen Wolf 2 than Styles from Teen Wolf 1. It just doesn't. The first episode, I think it was like his family was coming up from wherever, from all over America, and they're all werewolves. So that and I watched the first episode and I thought, no, I'm just knocking this on the head. For me, it's just the first film, and then somewhere it's the second film as well, but definitely the first film. Just we'll call it that.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on. So you were saying more about.
What was I going to say?
You know about Michael J. Fox?
Can't remember now.
I
remember when his dad, like after he's transformed for the first time, and like his dad, James Hampton, is knocking on the door. And then he opens the door, and then he sees Dad's a werewolf as well. I was just kind of like, what the fuck? Because it looked like a Wookiee had fucked an Ewok, and that was the result. And I'm like, that is the worst werewolf makeup I've ever seen.
We need to get that printed on a T-shirt, Mike.
I was just kind of like, oh, come on, mate. I know you like the film, but you've got to admit the Dad's werewolf makeup.
I've always thought that. I mean, it's funny though, because in this first film, he looks the way you just described them, but in the second film, he looks completely different. He looks more it was a bit more, it looks completely different. It was weird. But in the second film altogether, because I think the first film, this is the weird thing with me, because the first film and the second film, he doesn't really look like a werewolf as such, because he's not got the long, like, snout of a werewolf, if you know what I mean, like a dog would have. If you compare it to something like Dog Soldiers, I think they look more, especially in the second film, it was more like an ape. It looks like something like Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, that's the thing with like werewolf movies. It's kind of like the designs of werewolf movies can either go two ways. They can go full wolf, where they're going for like the animalistic kind of, it looks like a dog from hell kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or they can go this route with like Teen Wolf's gone, where they've gone like the Wolfman.
Yeah, that's the thing, innit? He's like,
the old Universal Wolfman kind of thing.
Like Hammer horror stuff, is it?
Yeah. And obviously that's where they've taken the cues here for this one.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like in between, say, a wolf man and an ape, I'd say. In Teen Wolf, but in Teen Wolf 2, he looks more ape squirrel or something like that.
Squirrel.
Yeah. So.
I can't say that I remember Teen Wolf 2, so I'm going to have to Google the image of that. But that was another thing that kind of struck me about this. It's kind of like, why do Michael J. Fox's eyes go red?
Yeah, that's.
I'm kind of like, I didn't understand that. I was kind of like, well, because he's going in, like you mentioned before, he's going in to buy the keg of beer, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he starts kind of like,
give me a keg of beer.
Yeah. But his eyes turn red, and the shopkeeper shits himself.
Yeah, if anything, he's sounding more like a demon possessed by a demon or something. In that.
Yeah.
I've always thought that.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird, because I could understand it if like his eyes changed colour, or he had like red contact lenses in as he's, his wolf self, but he doesn't. He's just like himself. And like the makeup when he's like changing,
when he's getting dressed. Yeah, when he's getting with his suit on.
Yeah, and his eyebrows are kind of bulging and stuff. I'm kind of like, and then he changes, and I'm like, well, why did his eyebrows bulge? Because like his eyebrows are just the same. He just looks hairier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's kind of like he's transforming, but he's not really transformed. He's just grown hair.
Maybe they didn't know what to do regarding the transformation stage back in 1985. That's the best they could come up with. And say at the time of watching it, it was pretty like striking. I think when I was a kid watching it the first time, when I look back on it now, you just tell it's just the makeup effects do look really ropey now. Yeah. But for me,
I guess they wanted a transformation scene because of like American Werewolf in London, didn't they? Because obviously that's iconic now.
Oh yeah,
it was iconic back then. So they're like, well, we've got a werewolf movie here, and we need a transformation scene. But
I mean, this is not a patch on the American Werewolf in London transformation.
It's not, but I think they just wanted a transformation scene in there for the sake of having a transformation scene in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though like the makeup effects that they do for his transforming, it doesn't actually happen anywhere where he changes. Well,
I think you only see it later on, don't you, with Styles when he's looking for the weed in his garage, and he's trying to tell him, and I've got something to tell you and stuff like that, and he says, "Oh, I'm a werewolf."
It just happens off screen,
and it just happens. It just kind of grows or something, makes a noise, and the next he's like, he's the werewolf, and he's like, "Scott, is that you?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's me."
Yeah. I'm just looking at it now, and he's kind of like in the school corridor with Booth after the dance, and he's got a beard. They're looking at each other side on, and it just looks like he's got a beard. He looks like he's out of ZZ Top.
Yeah, I tell you what, I did pick up on as well. Watching it in HD, is you can tell that when he's playing basketball, you can tell it's obviously not Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wrote down on my notes. It was kind of like after he transforms in the basketball scene, he grows 1.5 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I've got the dance scene on now when he's dancing around, and you can tell it's not Michael J. Fox dancing around.
Yeah.
Obviously, the close-up shots are him, but when it's from a distance and he's moving some of the dance floor, you can tell it's not him. Doesn't even look like him in the face.
No. Well,
No,
obviously they can hide that, can't they, with like the
but
makeup and stuff. But you
yeah,
can still tell it's.
you couldn't tell on VHS back in the day and probably at the cinema, but now in HD, when the picture's been cleaned up a little bit, you can notice a hell of a lot more.
And here's another thing. It's kind of like, right, he's a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Why the fucking hell does a werewolf transform in the middle of the day at school?
Well, is this? This is that he's like the wolf man, innit? He's not like a werewolf as such. Does it need
Yeah,
the full moon? Does he know that?
but does it explain that?
Does it go into it? Does it? No.
Because it's kind of like, I mean, he quite clearly says, "Oh, I'm a werewolf." Well,
Yeah.
werewolves are triggered by the full moon.
Yeah. Well, it must be something in between. And
Yeah,
they just not explaining the film. I mean, his dad calls him, but he said like, "Well, we're werewolves,"
yeah.
and even in the sequel as well, in Teen Wolf 2, they go by the name of, oh yeah, he's a werewolf. But
Did they explain like that in the sequel at all? How
um,
he's able to transform?
no, you're joking. No, nothing. No, I think Scott's dad is driving because in the sequel, anybody who's not seen it, it's obviously Michael J. Fox going to come back on board for the sequel.
Yeah,
So
it's Jason Bateman, isn't
Jason Bateman, yeah, and he plays Scott's cousin Todd. So when he's going to university,
it?
Scott's
Oh, so Jason Bateman's not the same character. It's a different
no, he's
character.
not, he's his cousin, but
Right, okay,
but
okay.
so his uncle, who is Scott's dad, he's taking him to university, and he's saying you're going to go through some change and stuff in the van. As he's driving him, you're going to go through some changing and stuff, and it'll happen to us. And he's like, "What do you mean? What'll happen?" He's like, "You'll see." And then as the story progresses, I think he ends up getting. He wants to be a veterinarian, I think it is, or something like that. But he's been put on a scholarship, sports scholarship, and because he knows he's related to Scott from the first film, the cousins, he might have the werewolf in him. So he gets put onto this scholarship, sports scholarship, and he gets put in the boxing ring. So your first boxing match there, he's getting beat up, gets knocked down, head hits the mat kind of thing, and they're like, get up, Todd, get up, and eyes turn red, and next thing you know, he jumps up and he's the werewolf and starts knocking everybody out. It's the same really as the first film,
Yeah.
but swap out basketball and put boxing in there instead. Yeah.
See, that's. I think I would have kind of like enjoyed the film a little bit more if it kind of explained the rules. I mean, it's one thing kind of like when you set up the premise of something like this, you have to explain the rules by which the movie or the story is going to adhere to, and by not explaining like certain rules about what their powers are and this, that, and the other, it kind of lost me. It's kind of because I
Yeah.
sat there and I'm thinking, well, what are his powers? What are his powers? I mean, does he just get hairy? Or
Well,
because clearly he's got powers. He's stronger than usual because he wins that fight with
it's faster. Yeah.
he's faster. He can dunk on people.
He's more athletic as well.
obviously he's
He's clever as well, isn't he? I think because he keeps getting like A plus and
he
stuff.
gets A's and all
That are
this kind
great.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, well, okay, fair enough. But on top of that, he's a werewolf, and everyone just seems to accept that because you have that, and everyone's kind of like, no one seems to acknowledge it, but well, they acknowledge it, but they don't kind of like react to it in a way. And it just seems to be like, is this an open secret within the town? Because you have that scene where his dad is
Oh, when he confronts
confronts the headmaster, and the
yeah.
headmaster pisses himself because he knows, Scott's dad's a werewolf and all that kind of shit. And it's like, well, they've obviously got history, which is never explained, and all of the kids in school don't react to Scott when he changes into a werewolf. So
Didn't his dad mention the history though? I think when he was sat at the table with Scott, I think, and he touched on it. He said something like something about when Scott's mum was alive and he was sticking his nose in this headmaster, and he turned into the wolf or something, and he pissed his pants, and then obviously later on he confront. You must have got sleep on that scene.
I must have, Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I did nod off for about 5-10 minutes in the middle of the
Oh,
film.
that's probably 5-10 minutes you missed then.
Probably yeah, because I woke up and I
Yeah,
was like, oh right, okay, it's still going.
yeah.
um,
As I said, they never really delved into his superpowers as such, did they? That was the thing. But
yeah,
maybe at the time they probably thought nobody's going to actually ask these questions. And
I think the one of the problems for this film for me is that it just feels a little bit underdeveloped, like the under. It feels like a first draft on a script. It feels a little bit amateurish for me. It's like the music really bugged me because for the first 15 minutes, I don't know if you've noticed, but the first 15 minutes you don't hear any music in the film. Not one little bit of music.
I can't say I've ever noticed.
And then
I,
when the actual music for the film does kick in, it's just those like 5 or 6 synth notes, like bow, 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 bow.
yeah, well, the movie starts with his heart rate, doesn't it? Beating because he's playing basketball. Like that,
Yeah,
that dum da dum da dum da dum
yeah.
da dum. Uh,
Um, and I think it comes down to the fact that, like you said, the film was shot in like 21 days. So I think
I mean,
it was
they had a small budget as well, didn't they? I mean, I don't know whether or not 1.2 million was that a big budget for back in 1985 or what. I'm not
I don't
sure.
know. I don't. I think a lot of that would have gone towards his paycheck because he, like I say, he was a star at the time. But I think yeah, it was clearly low budget. It was shot really, really quickly in 3 weeks, and I think that's probably where like
Yeah, they
the
could have.
issues with the film, stem from for me because
Yeah,
it's a simple enough story. It's kind of an underdog story. Someone who, like you say, he doesn't want to be average, and then he gains these powers, and then he finds himself not being average, but then he falls victim to a little bit of vanity and narcissism and all this kind of stuff, and then he learns a lesson of being true to himself, and then becomes special in winning the basketball game at the end, as
yeah,
himself, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean,
A little bit of redemption.
yeah.
Um,
There's a bit of a moral behind the film. I
yeah.
think. Yeah,
So
it,
in a way, it's an underdog story, the same way as Rocky and all that kind of stuff. But there's a morality tale there, but it just feels like a first draft to me. I think if it was just given a little bit longer to cook, I think it would have, it could have been a better film for me.
yeah, what you say, they've only had 21 days to shoot it. They've got a limited budget.
Yeah.
Maybe as well, them 21 days, they had to rush it kind of thing because they had Michael J. Fox for that amount of time, and with him doing that Family Ties and Back to the Future on the scene as well. They thought,
I
well,
mean, if anyone else apart from Michael J. Fox was in this film, I don't think it would be.
regarded the same with it, yeah.
No, not at all. No, I mean, because it has got a cult following. I know there's a lot of love out there for it. I know. Obviously, you like it, and I know
Yeah,
there's a
well,
lot of other people out there that remember it fondly as well.
yeah, when I posted it on the Facebook and Instagram, for a few comments and people liking it, and one of the listeners, Aaron White, as well, he said he watched it last week. So yeah, and I mean, I know Andy Ganoy likes it as well. He enjoys it, and Dean likes it from Junk Cancel. So there's a good few people there. That's like 3-4 people off the top of my head there. What are behind the film, and they remember probably they remember it same as I do from childhood like film from watching as a kid. But yeah, I think you said maybe they had a couple more extra weeks. Maybe they might have explained the story a little bit more.
Yeah,
In the
because I mean, the kind of like all the ingredients are there, but
yeah,
there was just bits of the film that I found really, really kind of boring, and not much kind of happened. I don't know. I'm being a Debbie Downer on it, mate. It didn't work for me, but
yeah,
I didn't dislike it. I didn't,
yeah.
it just bored me a little bit, kind of.
Well, you took the time to rewatch it for the podcast, didn't you? And
yeah.
And you say you've not been that negative on it. You've been.
I'm trying not to be, because there are like I said, it's just kind of, there's nothing egregiously bad about the film. I think it's, you've got to look at the film and kind of like take it for what it is, and the fact that I know that it was only shot in 3 weeks, and the fact that I know that it was a low budget film and the circumstances around it being shot, I can kind of understand why it doesn't really connect with me the way it does with other people, but I can completely see why some people do like it, and a lot of that is down to Michael J. Fox, obviously, because it goes back to what we were saying in the Frighteners episode, which not many people have listened to.
Ooh.
Go and check it out. But Michael J. Fox is a very likable character. I know he plays like Scott as a bit of a dick in this at times, and that's the way the character's written, kind of thing. But Michael J. Fox is always a likable kind of presence on screen.
Yeah, yeah.
So even when he's being a dick, he's still kind of like, well, it's Michael J. Fox.
I think he's got there's a certain charm to him in with what character he plays. I think as well, just when you said he's a bit of a dick in this, just thought actually now just come to me thinking about, because he's only, what old is he in this? He must be 17. He's about 16, 17, well 17 because he can drive, and over there you can drive at 17, can't you, in America? So maybe
something like that, yeah.
Maybe he's a bit of a dick because he's still trying to find out who he is, because he's still growing up, isn't he? And
yeah, well, that's part of the story, isn't it? It's
yeah,
kind of like he's trying to find his
and then at the end of the film, he basically found he knows who he is, and he just, don't be the wolf, just be yourself, because don't anybody, you know what I mean, who you're not, just be yourself, and that's, you know what I mean. He's got people around him that obviously his dad loves him, and Booth's obviously well in with him, so there's no need for to be the werewolf.
Yeah, and he doesn't need that whore.
Oh no! I mean, to be honest with you, I remember the first time I watched it, and when they was all parading him around on the basketball court when they won the game at the end, and he jumped down, and she was there waiting, that smirk on her face, and you just thought, don't go near her, and he ran over, and he looked like he was going to hug her because she had her arms out, and he just bypassed her and went straight to Booth. Thought, good on you.
Yeah. I mean, I think another reason why the film feels a little bit kind of like unfinished is because I think this was the first film that the director had done. What's the guy's name? Rod Daniel is the director of the film. And he went on to direct K9, Beethoven's Second, and Home Alone 4, if anyone cares.
Oh.
But this was his first film.
So this is probably out of them 4 or 5 films you just mentioned, then this is probably the best of the bunch, I'd say. And it's probably his first film. Because what was that? K9.
K9 was the right. So K9 was the James Belushi film with the German Shepherd,
dog.
Wasn't
Yeah.
It? Yeah. Because you had that, and then there was one with Tom Hanks in it with
Terminucci.
like a what was the dog in that one though? That was like a dog de Bordeaux, wasn't it?
Was that a box? Boxer?
No, I think it was a dog de Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't mind K9. I say that. I didn't mind K9, but it might be one of those I'll go back and watch it and I'm like, oh Christ, it's another piece of 80s shite. But, I've got a German Shepherd now, so I can't really say too much bad against...
you should get rewatch it then. Right up your street.
Yeah, well, it might not be one that we feature on the podcast anytime soon, but...
Well, you could watch it though, couldn't you, off your own back, and then just bring it up on the podcast and just say, watch that K9.
I would say I'm more familiar with K9 because I'm pretty sure I've seen that like on a Saturday afternoon when it's been on ITV or something.
Was there 2? Was there a sequel to that?
I think there was a couple, mate.
Yeah.
I think the dog dies, or is it Turner? I can never remember.
Turner and Hooch at the end of Hooch. Well, yeah, at the end of Turner and Hooch dies. I remember that.
Oh,
he gets shot.
Yeah, because in K9 the dog's pretending to be dead, isn't it? Because the dog's a witty little bastard.
Yeah.
So he's on the. Doesn't he get shot or something? Then he's on the operating table, and James Belushi's like pouring his heart out, saying, "No, I'm going to miss you," and all this kind of shit. And the dog's just lay there, and then it just looks up, and he's like, "You were there the whole time," and all this kind of shit.
Yeah, I think I've only seen it a few times, but it's been at least 25 years or something. 26.
I'm pretty sure there was a sequel like K9000 as well.
Yeah, I think I remember there's definitely a sequel, but I can't remember what it was called. I remember seeing it advertised on ITV back in the day.
I remember K9000. I was kind of like, is this fucking Knight Rider or something? Because they did a sequel to Knight Rider, like Knight Rider 2000, didn't they?
Yeah, Hasselhoff. Yeah.
Yeah, is the dog a car now or something?
Oh, God.
Yeah. I'm just looking actually. Oh, K9 has 2 direct-to-video sequels, K911 and K9PI.
PI? Oh, so is that like a Magnum PI?
Oh my God, James Belushi was in both of them as well. His career just took a fucking nosedive.
Must have needed the money then.
Christ. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, because we kind of got sidetracked there, didn't we? Was going through the cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other cast members as well. Matt Adler, he plays Lewis. Do you know what he's been in? I recognise him straight away.
Enlighten me.
He was in Flight of the Navigator. He played Jeff when he was sick. You know when the young boy gets taken away by the alien in the spaceship when he falls. He gets taken back to his own time, but it's taken something like 10 years into the future. He gets taken back.
Right.
So he's not aged, but his mum and his parents have aged, and his brother's aged. So Lewis from Teen Wolf plays his older brother at 16.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably recognise him.
That's another one that I've not seen for donkey's years, mate.
I've seen for a while. Yeah, he's wearing glasses in that. So.
Wasn't Sarah Jessica Parker in Flight of the Navigator?
Yeah, she plays.
She was like some
woman who. Yeah.
Like
I think she brought him some toys or something like that, or some food or something.
Yeah.
Like
and then he stuck out on the
like a robot thing or something, like a trolley she brought in.
I think she hated that film as well. She doesn't acknowledge being in that film.
Oh right. I mean, she was only in it. It was only 5 minutes or an hour. I think she was in it. But this Matt Adler, who plays Lewis in Teen Wolf, I think he featured in Flight of the Navigator a bit more, because obviously he's playing his younger but older brother. Because he should have been younger. He was younger at the start of the film, and he's younger at the end. But for the course of the whole film, he's playing the older brother because he's gone back in. He's gone into the future 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. So. What's the other one? The coach in Teen Wolf, Coach Finstock. He was played by Jay. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Tyrese. I've never seen him in anything else. He was only I looked him up on Internet Movie Database, and he was only in a few films. Nothing that known. But his character returned for Teen Wolf 2, but sadly he didn't. He was replaced by another actor, which was a bit strange.
Okay.
Yeah, because he just didn't act the same like he was in Teen Wolf in the in the first
changed everything about it.
Changed everything. Yeah, he's a bit.
So if you're going to change everything about a character, why not just make him a different character?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I only picked up on that recently when I watched Teen Wolf 2 the other week, and I just heard somebody call him Finstock, and I thought that's the coach from the first film. That. So when I looked it up on Internet Movie Database, I thought they kept the same character but changed the actor, and I thought, but he just acts completely different. Because the coach in the first Teen Wolf film, I think he's pretty memorable. I think because he's got a couple of one-liners on in that part when he's eating that hard-boiled egg when he's watching the basketball game. He's just like, "Go get me some salt."
Yeah.
So he's like assistants, and he runs.
A little bit weird.
Yeah.
Well,
at the start of the film as well, when it was Scott goes in for like a bit of a talk with him, like he's got things on his mind, and he goes in for him, and then he kind of talks to him, and the coach just fobs him off, and then Scott leaves, and he's just thinking, I've gone in there for talk to you, but you've not actually given me any advice. You've kind of like just shunted me.
Who else we got?
We've got. Well, here we go. This is a weird connection. This one. So the coach of the Dragon basketball team is called the actor called Troy Evans. I don't think you ever catch the character's name through the film, but he's called Troy Evans, the actor. Now, he was in The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox.
He was probably the only person I recognised in this film.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox.
And in Teen Wolf 2, John Astin, who plays the Dean Dunn, his character is. Yep. He's like the dean of the university. He wants to get Todd get success in the boxing as a werewolf and kind of thing, like get him the women and buy him cars and get him houses and money and stuff like that. I'll take care of all that for you, he says to him. But John Austin, again, he was in The Frighteners, so we've got he was the judge, yeah. So we've got an actor from Teen Wolf in The Frighteners, we've got an actor from Teen Wolf 2 in The Frighteners, and they both featured alongside Michael J. Fox. So we're a bit of a weird connection, that one.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm trying to think. No, we've got a guy. The guy.
It's not a massive cast, really, is it?
It's not a massive cast. A few of them, when I've watched them up on Internet Movie Database, they've not actually done anything as such since Teen Wolf. They've done little bits, but nothing where you think it's like stellar performances or films that you can look back on fondly. But the character Mick, who's like Pamela's boyfriend through the first film, who's giving Scott all the grief on the basketball court, and he's a bit of a bit of an idiot. He starred in Blade Runner 2049.
Did he?
Yeah, he was. I think he an interviewer or reporter or something like that. So it must only have been a brief scene. You probably recognise him more than me.
Definitely don't.
No.
Not from that, anyway.
No.
Must have been a blink and you miss him kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's credited for it anyway on in terms of database. So
saying that, I mean, this was like 85.
Well, it was.
So it's 35 years ago. So I'm sure he looks a lot different than what he did.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're approaching they're in the 60s. These guys now, aren't they? Because I think it's Michael J. Fox was 23 when he's playing a 17-year-old in Teen Wolf. Styles is 27 playing a 17-year-old. That mix 27 playing a well, I think he's playing about a 19-year-old in Teen Wolf because he's a bit older than it. Because they mentioned that he's gone back into high school because he did time. He's been to jail, so that's why he's back in high school.
Right.
So I always got the impression he was probably like 19, 20 or something like that because he looks a lot older than Michael J. Fox anyway in general. But he's 27 in real life at the time.
I've just googled him and he kind of looks similar, but I don't remember him being in Blade Runner. Yeah. I'm not saying he wasn't, but I definitely don't remember.
Yeah, and when we mentioned this on the Total Recall episode of the Transfer films, he also had a starring role in the Transfer films. He was in Transfers 4 and 5. I've only ever seen the first two films, I think it is, or maybe the first one, so I wouldn't have a clue about that.
Yeah, like I say, if I've seen any of them, it's probably only the first one.
Yeah.
So.
That's the girl who played Booth, Susan Ucity, I think her name is. I don't know how you pronounce it. I've never seen her in Teen Wolf, and I've looked her up, and she did. I think she after the mid-90s. I don't think she did anything.
She bounced out, did she?
She bounced out, yeah. Andy Gunnar posted a picture of her on Get to the Chopper during the week, and she still looks pretty fine. Yeah. Yeah, and the other guy who I picked up on as well, Mark Holton, who played Chubby. He was in Teen Wolf. He was in Teen Wolf, and he was in Teen Wolf 2 as well. Returned again as playing Chubby.
Right.
But I recognise him from Leprechaun, the first Leprechaun film with Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah. I had seen his face in something, but I couldn't place the dude. But I was kind of like, when he first showed up on the basketball team, I was kind of like, this motherfucker looks like he's 40.
Yeah,
he definitely doesn't look like a school kid to me. But...
Yeah, he looks. I think he's another one who's like 26, 27, playing a 17-year-old in Teen Wolf. So he's a few years older than Michael J. Fox. But he was in Naked Gun as well, and he was in The League of Their Own, the baseball film.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, so he's had a few bits since Teen Wolf, and the other one as well I picked up on. You know the guy with the little boy with the dog whistle in the hardware shop in his dad's shop.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Yeah, no.
No, right. His real name is Carl Stephen. He's sadly passed away now. 2011, he passed away. But he was the boy in Honey I Shrunk the Kids, in the first Honey I Shrunk the Kids film, where Selinsky's son.
Yeah.
He wants to.
The one with the glasses.
On the glasses on, his friend comes round to mow the lawn.
Oh right, I thought you meant it was like Zelensky's son.
No, not his son. He's
right, okay.
His son's friend who comes round to mow the lawn. He's like, I'll throw in a box of cookies if you mow the lawn or something. I think he buggers off his friend. He said, I can't do it now. He said, I'll come back in an hour or something like that. And he comes back and mows the lawn with the remote control lawnmower, what his dad's invented. And the kids are on the grass and they're, obviously they've been shrank and they're trying to make their way back to home. And they'd come out and Stilinski and his wife come out to turn it off kind of thing. But
it's safe to say then that most of the cast for this film have not really done much of note after Teen Wolf.
Nothing really. No, nothing. No, nothing stellar out there. I mean, John Austin's done a bit from Teen Wolf 2, hasn't he? He's recognisable. His name.
Yeah.
What was his other? Oh, that Carl Stephen who played the boy with the whistle, the dog whistle. He also was young Spock in Star Trek 3 as well.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So, what I say? Yeah. Think he would. Yeah. And he was in the Wonder Years as well.
I have to go back and check that.
Oh, here's another bit of trivia for you as well. Teen Wolf 2. it starred Jason Bateman, but it was also directed by Kent Bateman, who's Jason Bateman's dad.
Ah, well, that's a case of it's not who you know, it's
Yeah,
not what you know, it's who you know.
I think it's Michael J. Fox starred in that Family Ties with Jason Bateman's sister.
Yeah.
It's a weird little connection. I don't. Is she the one who went off pregnant?
No, it was that Miriam Baxter Burney, I think. I never watched Family
Well,
Ties.
just a weird tie-in in it. You look around, and I
Yeah.
think as well though is John Astin. I think he starred in he did star in the TV series Erie, Indiana, which I mentioned a few episodes ago to you, and I think you recall seeing it or knowing about it or something like that. It stars the young lad from Hocus Pocus. Do you remember that one? Bette Midler film, The Witches.
I remember the film. I've never watched it. I had no interest in that whatsoever.
Yeah, I've only watched that about a year ago because my little girl wanted to watch it. She was going for like a witch's face, so I was like, right, we'll watch that, and it's not too bad actually. I mean, I don't mind it because he's in it. I think his name is Omri Kratz. I think it is Omri Katz. That's his real name. But John Astin was in Erie, Indiana, and there was somebody else from the Teen Wolf like films as well connected to Erie, Indiana. It might be Finstock from Teen Wolf 2. He appeared in that as well. So there's like a weird connection with all these Teen Wolf 1, Teen Wolf 2 actors showing up in different movies, but kind of like side by side again, which is weird.
See, the only person I kind of recognised, like in the background, was there's a chick at the party that they go to.
The blonde chick.
No, she's the girl that's handing Styles something. She's
Oh
wearing
yeah,
a bloody
knickers.
corset kind of thing.
Yeah,
And it's what's her name, Kirsten Warren or something like that. And she's like only ever like a bit part actress, but she's she's the girl that gets fucking zapped in Independence Day when the thingy comes like shooting down.
oh, is that her?
Yeah, she's the girl that runs up. She's
Oh,
one of the
skyscraper.
strippers. Yeah, she's one of the strippers, and she's kind of like talking to, I think it's Vivica Fox, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna go up and blah blah blah," and she runs up and she's got the card.
Yeah, the sign.
She's
Yeah,
like, "Woo!" And she's holding the sign up, and then all of a sudden the open the
right. See, I only recognised her from Saved by the Bell, the college years, because she was in that as well.
No, she's kind of weird looking. So she's got one of those faces that I kind of recognised because she was in that. She's been in a few things like Independence Day, so I recognised her from that. And she was in Pushing Tin.
Yeah.
With what's his face, John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton. She's one of the chicks in that.
Yeah.
And she was, I think she played that female robot. In Bicentennial Man, what's Galatea?
I'm not sure.
She played like the ditzy robot, which kind of at the end of Bicentennial Man, she was like a real girl kind of thing.
Yeah, I only just recognise her from Saved by the Bell college years because I think Independence Day was 1995, was it 96 or something like that, and I'm sure the college years had just finished, so it was kind of fresh in my mind. And then I remember watching the cinema and I thought, oh, it's her from Saved by the Bell. But I didn't even pick up on her in Teen Wolf, so you've got one over on me there.
I just noticed her when I didn't notice her when I watched it on Monday. I just noticed her when I had it on the background. Now I was like, is that her?
She's not just in that scene though at the party. She's also I think she appears in throughout the film, but she's got sunglasses on. She always like Styles, mate. Her and a friend are always with Styles and Lewis, but they've got shades on.
I was just kind of like, she's got a weird face, so she just kind of like stuck out. And I was like, oh right, okay. Because she was wearing a corset again, and I was just kind of like, there's some weird shit going on in this film, considering it's only supposed to be a PG.
Yeah. Did you pick up on that online as well about the ending, the end of the film with somebody was stood there with like with that the shit out? Did you pick up on that?
Zip undone.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of that. Someone said it was a woman, but they're in male clothes, and why was the zip undone? And I think it was just a block.
Yeah.
It's one of those. If you're a background extra and they're shooting kind of like a basketball scene, there's a good chance they've been sat there all fucking afternoon while they're pretending to have a basketball game in front, and they probably just needed a piss. Um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
I think. Yeah, I think because from the VHS copy days, I think people were saying it was a guy stood up there with his dick out or something like that.
Yeah, there was. I've
But,
just because the film finished like 5-10 minutes ago, and there was definitely no dickage hanging out of that.
yeah, I think back in the VHS days you couldn't really tell or something like that maybe because of the footage. But since it's been cleaned up on DVD and HD, you can work out it's not a man, it's a woman stood
Yeah,
there. And
I think
I
it's
read,
just one
I
of
read on
those like
Wikipedia.
myths, like Three Men and a Baby. There's a fucking there's a ghost behind the door and all that kind of stuff. It's like no, it's
Yeah,
definitely not. It's
yeah.
just a cardboard cutout. You just
I just wonder. I wonder if the director or whatever noticed at the time. And if do you know what I mean? If like, well, we'll keep it in for a jet gag, and
no,
nobody will
they
notice it. Or
probably did notice in editing, and they just because they like freeze frame on that, and it's kind of like, but because it was shot in 21 days, they wouldn't have
not
been in.
at the time to
Yeah, they
reshoot it
wouldn't
or
have been
anything.
in a
All that.
position to actually go back and do anything about it. It's just kind of like, do you know what? Fuck it, it's in there. It'll just have to stay in. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Final thoughts on the film then?
Well, my final thoughts. It's still got a certain charm. I think it has. It always will do with me. I think it's one films like Back to the Future and loads more. I could just put on and just tune out and just tune into it. You know what I mean? Still enjoy it now. I think a lot of it's just from nostalgia days and look back on it with fond memories and stuff like that. But I can understand where you're coming from, Mike. It's not got that appeal to you and stuff like that, but it appeals to me, and I think it always will do. And when my little girl gets old enough, I'll probably get her to watch it, and whether or not she'll look back on it the same way I do, she might be thinking, "Oh my god, what is this kind of thing?" But I'll try with it
Yeah,
anyway. But
I mean, I
it's
think this is one of those things that could possibly benefit from like an up to date remake. I know they did a TV show,
TV
but that
series.
that didn't really have any relationship to the movie at all. I think they just wanted to take the team.
I think usually the name that,
Just yeah,
yeah,
they wanted to use the name, and they wanted to create a TV show that would kind of piggyback off the success of things like Twilight, because it
yeah,
felt
didn't
very much like a an attempt to capture that Twilight angsty teenage
yeah,
supernatural
didn't they?
push.
Wasn't there a character in there as well called Styles? Didn't they throw that in or something?
Mate, I literally only watched like one episode, so if there was, I can't remember because I was just kind of like, this
One,
is not for me whatsoever.
yeah, yeah. So you're getting the Twilight vibes from it, kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. I
So
mean, the only good thing that came out of that is the one of the guys that's in it, Tyler Hecklin. He
mm.
shows up as Superman in the Supergirl TV show, and he actually makes a decent Superman. Yeah.
All right, all right,
So yeah, there is a TV version of Superman, and on the Supergirl TV show, and he's pretty good. So
right.
but
So well then, Mike, final thoughts.
final thoughts is, like I say, I think it could use a remake. But I think if they were to remake it, they'd be missing one crucial thing, and that's Michael J. Fox, because obviously they ain't going to get him back for it.
No, and it's not speaking getting back to play
No, definitely not.
the dad or something like that. No, because
I
he's a lot
think he's
older now.
done. I think he's done. I don't think he could pull that off now, mate. Not with
No,
his
no.
condition now. Sadly. Yeah, I didn't. I thought I would hate the film. I didn't. I found it boring in places, and it lacked a little bit of polish because obviously the rush production and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
true.
think it just yeah, it was made to take advantage of a popular star at the time and make a bit of money, and it was obviously successful with doing that. And in the course of doing that, it became somewhat a cult classic. I'm glad people enjoy the film, but it just wasn't something that I enjoyed. Um,
Was there any favorite scenes in the film? Would you say when you thought, yeah, that's pretty good, or like the transformation scene or
Definitely not the
anything? I don't
transformation
know.
scene. No, no, not so much. I can't
No.
think of any individual scene where I would say that was my favorite. I was just kind of like, okay, it's like the equivalent of kind of like a rainy day. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's
Yeah,
just kind
yeah.
of like ugh, didn't offend me, but it didn't blow my hair back, mainly because I'm bald. But it just didn't cause any offence, but it didn't have any kind of memorable moments for me either, kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's fair enough.
So yeah.
And another big plus for me as well when I watch the film is I don't know if not you picked up on it, but I like the soundtrack as well. It's cheesy 80s music, but I just quite enjoy it.
I didn't really get a sense of the music. That's why I'm going to be interested in
What Dean does. Yeah.
Which I'll get to in a second. But like I said, the one thing that struck me is there was kind of like no score to the film for the first 15 minutes or so, and then when it did kick in, it was just those bow, 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 and those the synth notes, and it kept using that. It kept recycling that synth kind of theme over and over again. I do know. This is really driving me insane now. And then towards the end, you've got the song when they win the basketball game and all that.
Oh, winning the end. Shooting for the moon. Something like that. Yeah. Shooting for the moon. Shooting for the moon.
You got the song dance at the school, and then you got the song at the end. But that was.
Yeah, but the CD as well. You've got other ones in the party. They walk into the party. I think there's a song playing. It's just walking in, they're saying hi to everybody. Scott tries it on with Pamela, and he says something like, "Oh, are you looking for someone?" And she just says, "Yeah, not you," and buggers off. And then Booth comes home and says, "See, she said 2 words to you," and then hugs him and then walks off. There's a song playing in the background there. I think it's good. Good days or something, good times or something like that's playing, and then when he's doing the party styles, when they get locked in the cupboard and he scratches the back, there's a song playing there called Silhouette, which is pretty good. You got Winning the End is when he's at the basketball scene at the end, I think it is, and he's they've got a team are playing together and there's a team, and there's a song playing there called Winning the End, and then you got Shooting for the Moon as the closing credits.
Well, I'll be interested to see on what happens with the Jump Cancel podcast, because for you guys who have just listened to this podcast, we do have for the first time ever a companion podcast, and it's going to be done by our friend Dean, who has his own podcast called Jump Cancel. Some of you will already be aware of him, but for others who aren't, go and check him out. Jump Cancel. You should be able to find him on iTunes, Podbeans, wherever you get your podcasts from.
Spotify, I think on Spotify now as well.
Yeah, so just search for Jump Cancel, and he does music-based podcasts. And we had a chat with him, and he is doing a podcast reviewing the soundtrack to Teen Wolf. So please go and check out Jump Cancel. Download, have a listen. He'll be putting snippets of the tracks on there and having a bit of a chinwag over that as well.
But for anybody who's not actually seen the film yet and they're just going to actually just download the soundtrack, if I had to compare the soundtrack to any film from that time, I'd probably say something. It's probably music you find in Karate Kid or something like that. I'd say the music used in that. Okay. That's what I think.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember the soundtrack for Karate Kid either.
It's along them lines. It's the kind of.
But again, that's that's what I was going back to saying. It's kind of like an underdog story, isn't it? It's kind of so you're gonna have similar kind of musical cues with that. But check out Dean's podcast, Jump Cancel. If you want to hear more about the music on Teen Wolf, and Dean will also be coming up on one of the episodes of the Untitled Film podcast soon. He's going to be one of our first guests, and we are going to be sitting down and discussing the Craft.
Yeah, this is Dean's pick. This
one. So we've got a couple of guests lined up for the next couple of weeks, and Dean is one of them. And I said, pick a film. He's picked The Craft, which is, I think, is a 1995 film.
1995. Sarah Neve Campbell and who's the other one actress in it? Oh, it's and
Firuza Balk.
The young girl from Return to Oz.
Yeah, Fairuza Balk was Dorothy in the sequel to The Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz, which
Yeah.
was a very creepy film. Skeet Ulrich's in there as well. Yeah, so teen fantasy horror movie about witches. Um, so I'm looking forward to actually sitting down with you and Dean and going through that film.
Yeah, because I've never actually seen The Craft, so I'm looking forward
It's
to that.
I've rewatched it recently, and I enjoy it. I quite like the film, but we'll get into it properly. With Dean when he comes on the show in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
We've got,
Well, wasn't you saying that it's got a pretty good soundtrack? So maybe we could speak to Dean and see if we can do do an episode on the Craft music
yeah,
soundtrack.
possibly. We'll see if he's down for that. But there's some recognisable songs on the Craft. So
Yeah.
yeah. We also have another guest coming up, and it's the Ginger Ninja himself, Chris Manning. Chris, we used to work at the cinema with Chris back in the day, and he is going to be coming on the podcast, and we are going to be looking at one of my personal favourites, which is Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. Exciting things happening with the podcast, getting guests on, so we've got the Craft episode coming up, and we've got the Fellowship of the Ring coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But the next film that we're going to be doing is
It's your pick, mate.
yeah, and I'm kind of on the fence because I've been kind of thinking while I've been talking with you tonight about what I wanted to cover, and I did say I wanted to go a little bit more recent, and
Have you changed your mind now?
no, fuck it, because the third film is coming out in a couple of months, and you haven't seen any of these films.
Yeah, never seen any of them. So go on, Mike.
My next pick is going to be John Wick. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think if you like your action films and
Keanu Reeves.
well, yeah, it was a sleeper hit. This one came from out of nowhere and just was a massive success just based on word of mouth. Typical one of those kind of sleeper films that just everyone starts talking about and just becomes a success overnight kind of thing. So you haven't seen it. I have. I love it. I think it's a fantastic film.
Yeah, we'll go for that. Yeah, we'll go for that. So we've gone from 1985 right up to basically, what was it, like 2011, was it? 2014, yeah, so...
Yeah, because we've had John Wick 2, and John Wick 3 is out in a couple of months, so...
Yeah, so this is the most recent film we've covered so far, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, by far the most recent film.
That's not including the best of 2018 films, but we don't really include that because
just a kind of look back, and I'm not including the commentary tracks in there either. For anyone wondering, as well, I did say I was going to do a commentary track for Unbreakable and Split. I am going to do those. I did sit down and record a commentary track for Unbreakable. However, Voice Meter does not like me, and the podcast was unusable, unfortunately. But I don't want to sit down and watch the film again so close to, recording the commentary track for it a couple of weeks ago, because I just need a little bit of a break away from the film before I can go back and rewatch it and enjoy it, and obviously, sit and talk about it again. So I will be doing that, re-recording the commentary track for Unbreakable. And then once I've done that, I will be getting the commentary track out for Split. And I'll probably discuss Glass. So by the time I actually sit down and do the commentary track for Split, Glass will have been out for a good few weeks, and hopefully anyone who cares to listen to my thoughts on Glass will have seen it by then, so I won't be spoiling anything. So yes, I haven't forgot about those. I am going to be getting onto the commentary tracks, but yeah, for now, I'm going to give it another week or two before I actually sit down and watch Unbreakable again and record, or re-record, as it were, commentary track.
Yeah.
So we have got some things in the pipeline for the podcast. Like I say, we've got Dean coming on in the next couple of weeks to record an episode on the Craft. We've got Chris coming on to discuss the Lord of the Rings. And me and Lee are going to sit down and watch John Wick. So
yeah, looking forward to that because I've never seen any of these, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be nice.
Yeah, I think you've got to catch up on these films. I was quite surprised that you haven't seen like the John Wick films because I thought they would have been up your alley.
Yeah, I think it's just I've just not got around to watching. That's the thing. I think it's a case of
Time.
this day. Yeah, this day and age, there's that many things to watch, and because I've got a little girl, it's having the time. You know what I mean? Back in maybe 10, 15 years ago, I had the time to watch anything. You know what I mean? Get home from work and just put a film, and I watch 4 films a night, and that and go to bed. And but now it's just I've got to wait till she goes to bed, and then at that point, and then when it's like 8:30, 8 o'clock, or whatever, she goes to bed. I might watch half it and then start dozing off myself, and then I'm up for work at 5:30. So it's a lot harder now.
It's going to get even harder now, mate, because I mean, just rewatching Fellowship of the Ring, that's a good 3 hours out of your day. So you might have to split that over a couple of nights, I think.
You might split it over a week, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, you got your work cut
Yeah.
out for you because you're gonna have to rewatch. Well, you're gonna have to rewatch Fellowship because I know you've seen that, but you've not seen it for a while, have you?
Yeah. See, but when you said about covering doing the Lord of the Rings, and I said, oh well, I don't know if I'm going to be any good to that episode because I don't know enough. I do enjoy the films, but I don't know enough about them. You're like, yeah, we just get on board because we can have your opinion as well. So it's, and like I was saying to Chris as well, it's not that I don't like the film because I'm into all the fantasy and stuff like that. You know, like Willow and Harry Potter and you know what I mean, and Krull and all that kind of.
Which is weird
The
because
fantasy
you've only
element.
just recently watched the Harry Potter films, haven't you? So
Yeah. I think it's because I was always put off by the first Harry Potter film because there were little kids in it and stuff like that, and I was like, oh no, I don't know, but. Soon I got that out of the way, and then I've already kind of seen Chamber of Secrets on ITV in the past over the years, bits of it anyway. So I thought I like the tone of that film, but I need to watch the first one really. But I just thought it might be a bit too kiddish for me, you know. But I watched it, and I've not looked back ever since, and really enjoyed the Harry Potters.
good. I'm glad you did. Cause,
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm not a huge fan, but I've already discussed that at length, ad nauseum.
Yeah,
So yeah. Okay. Instagram.
yeah, the Untitled Film Podcast. So if you want to follow us on there and give us a like, and just keep up to date with what episodes we've got coming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then much appreciated.
And if you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can always drop us an email at untitledfilmpod@gmail.com. And I just want to take a second to announce that I have launched a Patreon for the podcast as well, just to help us pay the bills and cover the cost of the running of the podcast. Now, I appreciate everyone who has taken the time to actually download and listen to an episode of the Untitled Film Podcast. We are coming up on 300 downloads, which, you know, is fantastic. I never thought we'd get this far. But we're getting to the point now where we could really use some kind of financial support just to cover the costs. There's a couple of different levels of tiers there, and a few benefits on there. So please have a look on Patreon, search the Untitled Film Podcast, and if you're feeling generous, throw a few shekels our way so we can keep the podcast coming and improve the quality and hopefully improve the frequency at which we upload new episodes and new content. But from me, that's pretty much everything. Anything else you want to cover there?
I think that's it. Just if you can, just go and check out Dean's podcast, Jump Cancel.
Yeah, because it is essentially going to be a sister podcast to the Team Wolf episode. So yeah, check out Jump Cancel. He will be putting out the OST for Team Wolf. And go and support him over there. He's a good lad, and his podcasts are fun. If you like music-based podcasts, or if you just need something to listen to while you're on your daily commute into work, you know, you can download his podcast and listen to a little bit of music and a little bit of his biting satire.
Yeah.
he has got a very sly sense of humour when he's talking about some of the songs that he's covering. So yeah, go and have a look at him and his podcast, and just a quick shout out to the guys over at Get to the Chopper, Andy Godoy. I appreciate every shout out that you've given through your podcast.
Yeah, and also Darren Brown as well, and I think Damien as well. They give us a few shout outs as well between them.
The support is greatly appreciated, guys. Thank you very, 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 very much. But until next time, guys, thanks for listening as always, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Goodbye. Hello.